one question I hope you will all take away with you today. One question to keep with you. And that is, in light of Christ's sacrifice and resurrection, how you choose to respond. We all get to choose for ourselves when great gifts and great abundance are given to us, how we will respond. Will we respond from a place of scarcity? Or will we respond from a place of abundance? Do we trust in those around us when gifts are given to us? Or do we not trust? Or do we put our trust all in ourselves instead? These are questions we need to weigh, and it's exactly what comes up in this story today. So we have a special reading for today. It's the last Sunday in Lent. Normally we've been reading through the Gospel according to Luke, but today it's different. We've deviated, and today we're reading from John. And it's because Holy Week starts next Sunday. Holy Week, that week-long period from Palm Sunday to Easter Sunday, where we're invited to walk with Jesus on the final days of his earthly life, where Jesus triumphantly enters into Jerusalem. He shares a few last lessons with his friends, shares a final meal with them, and then he's betrayed and arrested, tried, and he's murdered. And after he lies in the tomb, rises again. That all happens next week. So this Sunday is our last Sunday in Lent to prepare, to be in a season of repentance and preparation. And so we should ask ourselves, how do we prepare for Jesus' sacrifice and his resurrection to come? And it's really fitting that the reading we turn to from John is Jesus on his way to Jerusalem, on his way for Holy Week, and he stops in Bethany on the way there. Have one final meal with his friends, Lazarus and Martha and Mary. He stops at their house with his disciples. One last chance to share a meal with them. And in this story, as they're all preparing for what's about to come, because they've been told what's about to come, Jesus has told them, it's interesting to see how Judas and Mary, how Judas, son of Simon, and Mary respond in two very different ways. Judas responds to God's abundance and God's promise out of scarcity, out of fear, out of putting all of his trust in himself and instead of God and others. And Mary chooses to come from a place of abundance. Now notice they're both disciples of Jesus. They're both here at this final meal in Bethany. They both know he's the Son of God. They both saw Lazarus rise from the grave. They saw the feeding of the 5,000. Both Mary and Judas get God's promise to them. But they choose to respond differently to it. Judas, son of Simon, grew up in a poor family. All the scholars seem to indicate he grew up in a poor family, probably didn't have a stable home or enough to make sure that he was secure. And coming from that place of scarcity, he was used to when gifts had been offered or where there was an opportunity to take for himself. He always made sure he had what he needed first. Notice how he responds in this story. When there's abundance, the abundance of Jesus being offered before him and the abundance of gifts, his first reaction is to make sure he gets his share, make sure he gets enough. And we know where that's going to lead. We know it eventually leads down the path of him even being willing to betray Jesus for a few coins and betray him to death. But I hope we can see in this story that Judas doesn't do this just because he's evil, right? He's not just a pure evil and has no redeemable qualities. He's somebody who's operating from a place of scarcity and fear and lack of trust. He doesn't count on God to provide. So he's going to provide for himself. He doesn't count in Jesus' promise. He lives in fear and operates from scarcity. Mary chooses a very different approach. Mary's approach, she probably grew up in just as poor of a background. This jar of nard that she's bestowing upon Jesus cost her a year's worth of wages, probably. She couldn't afford this. But she knows that the gifts she's been given by God. And so Jesus commends her, coming from a place of abundance. Now, anybody ever read this story in a Bible study before? And it always strikes everybody. This comes up every time I do this in a Bible study, where somebody says, Jesus says, well, you'll always have the poor around you. Lavish this upon me instead. Has it ever struck anybody as a little odd? Yeah, oh yeah, this comes up every Bible study I've ever done. It seems like a weird thing for Jesus to say. You'll always have the poor. Go ahead and treat you well. But Jesus is really drawing on an old tradition here. An old tradition that stretches back to the Torah that says there will always be people around us who need us. It goes back to Deuteronomy chapter 15. You look at it. God says, you will always have people around you who need you, who count on you, who you can spend your life taking care of and providing for. Jesus is commending Mary not because there's a futility in helping the poor, because there will always be poor. He's commending Mary because in the face of the gifts she's been given, she's choosing to share them instead of hoarding them to herself, like Judas is. So that's, in this season of Lent, that's what we have to ask ourselves, as we're in Lent and we're preparing, and to ask ourselves that question. In the light of Jesus' sacrifice and resurrection, how do we respond? Do we respond from a place of scarcity or respond from a place of abundance? And I've been watching this all Lent. I've been watching all Lent and the people at St. Stephen's. It was about a year ago that somebody put a bomb outside our church office. And it went off. And we could have responded out of fear, out of lack of trust, out of scarcity. We could have responded by locking our doors and saying we don't want strangers around us and chasing everybody away and saying no, closing our doors. We're looking out for ourselves. And that's not what we did. I've watched over the course of the last year as we've sought to open our doors and to be more inviting, to be more welcoming to our neighbors. I've watched as we've prepared and we've been doing mental health first aid trainings. We did one last month. We're going to do one again next month, where we're inviting in stranger and neighbor alike to say, here's how we can take care of each other better so that these things don't have to happen. That's only possible because we come at this from a place of abundance and trust in the Lord instead of fear. I've watched at the Interfaith series. Lent Interfaith, who went to the Lent Interfaith series last year? Yeah. We had to put ourselves out there. We opened up our doors to Catholics and Presbyterians and Baptists. And we don't agree with each other about everything. We have differences with each other about things. And we could have operated from a place of fear and scarcity and said, no, well, we got to take care of ourselves. But that's not what we did. We came from a place of abundance, and we shared abundant hospitality to our neighbors. And everybody walked away just overjoyed and filled with the Spirit and said, wow, the people at St. Stephen's are so generous and so abundant and so loving and such good neighbors to us. We didn't have to choose that, but we did. I've watched our neighbors at our school. As our parents over at our school, and the schools come to us and said, you know what, we need help. We have so many families in our school now that are two-income families where moms and dads are both at work and they need a safe, secure place for their kids to stay until one of us can get off work and pick up our kids. And we could have put up our hands, we could have said, you know what, that's not our problem. We got to take care of ourselves. But that's not what we did. Instead, we came from a place of abundance, and we said we love families. And we've got all this land. We've got all these things that have been given to us. Let's open up our doors. Let's create a safe and nurturing environment where families know their kids can be safe and secure until they can get off of work and come pick them up for our after-school program and our summer program. That takes dedication, and it takes a willingness to be able to say, let's take the gifts, the abundant gifts that God's offered us, and let's share them. These are the kind of choices we have to make every day as we decide in a world that sometimes is filled with unknowns and can lead us to want to make sure that we're safe, that we have what we need, we take care of ourselves first. Or it can lead us to a place where we can look at each other and we can say, we are blessed. We are blessed with God's love. We are blessed with God's promise. And that's a blessing that we can share. So as we finish up our season of Lent, as we get ready for Holy Week starting next Sunday, as we get ready to celebrate and remember God's sacrifice for us, and God's promise in the resurrection for us, and the abundance we've been given, we can all ask ourselves, how do we choose to respond?